Let's talk about what it looks like to be aligned or in alignment, because we hear a lot about this when it comes to manifesting in our dreams, right? The whole idea of we want to align our energy with the dream or desire that we have. And once that energy is aligned, then the dream can't help but manifest. Well, that all sounds fine and we get it logically. Yes, like frequency attracts like frequency. But how do you know what that feels like, especially if you've never had it? Welcome to the Manifesting Millions podcast, where we talk about manifestation, money, and practical guidance to creating your dream reality. My name is Amy Van Meel, and I am an experienced coach and transformation guide, obsessed with helping you get out of your own way and create a life that blows your mind each day you wake up. My goal in this podcast is to share practical manifestation, self-awareness, and growth techniques in real talk conversations. So if you're ready to massively transform your reality, your finances, your relationships, and your overall enjoyment of life, you are in the right place. I am absolutely delighted that you're here with me today, babe. Let's get into it. Well, hello and welcome back to the Manifesting Millions podcast, or if this is the first time you've been here, welcome to the podcast. If you have been listening to me for a while, you will notice that I sound a little more Barry Manilow-like today. I have been experiencing a very sore throat, and candidly, talking is not the easiest thing for me. So in light of that, I'm going to have a slightly different podcast format for you this week. I have assembled 3 different questions that I'd recorded the videos already. They're just being edited and getting ready to head out onto the socials, but I decided to pull the audios and bring them onto the podcast. So today's podcast is going to be answering 3 very common questions that we find when it comes to manifestation, going after our dreams. The questions are, what's the deal with affirmations and do they actually work? How do you know when to give up or when to keep going? And what does it look like to be aligned or in alignment? Now, you'll hear the answers to those questions shortly. And I'm going to pop in, you'll hear my lovely deep voice once in between the recordings, because some of them I actually say the question at the beginning and some I don't. So I want to just make sure that those are clear for you so you know what you're listening to as I'm giving you the answer. The other thing that I want to let you know, actually 2 things. So if you're new to me and you've been trying to go to any of my website things, so anything at all related to amyvanmeel.com, you might have been experiencing an error page. I've been having some domain challenges. Domains are not my favorite thing. Oh my gosh. Every time I have to handle it, I'm so glad I am manifesting in the reality that I will have a team who's going to do this like amazing bosses. So currently the domain is in the process of being transferred over, which just kind of means everything's going to likely throw an error page, or you might see some old pages. And I'm expecting that all to be cleared up within the next week. So just roll through it with me as we get technology wrestled into place. And the other thing, much more important, is that I have decided to do a very fun series. Now, the series is going to be partially published on the podcast and partially something that you sign up for. So I'm doing a series called The 5 Energies of Money. And I'm going to be talking about, in total, it's actually 10 energies, because basically it's like the flip side energy. So for example, the very first episode, we'll be talking about scarcity, and then the, not necessarily, I wouldn't necessarily call it the opposite, but I suppose it's the easiest way to see it is like the opposite energy being that of abundance. So we're going to dive into what are each of these energies? What do they have to do with money? How do we experience them in our life? What could it look like? How do we shift and let go of the low vibe energy? So, for example, scarcity is a low vibe energy. And how do we shift into and maintain an energy that's a higher frequency? So, for example, how do we shift into and maintain abundance? And specifically when it comes to creating more money into our life, right? So, that series, what I'm going to be doing, I'm pretty excited about it. This is an idea that came to me via my intuition. And I love when my highest self or my intuition drops these little gems in for me. What we're going to do is the first sort of half or third, I don't know exactly, don't hold me to like a specific amount of time, but the first chunk of the episode is going to be published here on the podcast. Then the second half of it, so all the stuff where we talk about like how do we shift it, how do we maintain it, and I'll have some simple guided workbooks to kind of pair along with them, are all going to be something that you need to sign up for to get access to. It's completely free. It's not going to cost you anything other than you got to go sign up. Now, I was really hoping to have the URL ready for you so that as you're listening today, you could be like, and go here. And then I went, all right, my domain is still in a little bit in La La Land. So whether I had a URL for you or not, can't send you there today because it's not working yet. So I will drop the URL and I will share it. I'll share it next week's podcast and like every podcast episode coming after. The Five Energies of Money series launches on October 16th, which is exactly 2 weeks from today when you're listening to this podcast. So definitely check it out. Like I said, you can hear the first part of it on the podcast. And then if you want the fullness of each episode, I will direct you where to go to sign up. So with that, I'm going to go back to drinking my lemon ginger tea with honey and resting my voice. This timing is not super ideal because in less than 24 hours, I am actually flying out to Manitoba to go visit my dad and a couple of my friends. And it would be great if I actually could comfortably carry on a conversation when I'm actually going out to visit these people. But I've forewarned everybody, like, heads up, it's possible that you'll have to carry on 95% of the conversation. And actually, I just want to touch on one little thing because this just kind of sparked in my mind. There might be some of you listening going like, what the fuck are you doing, Amy, if you're sick and you're flying? Now, here's what's very curious. I want to talk about this very quickly before we dive into the questions. So I have a very clear idea of like when my body is moving something through something like a cold or where it actually feels like I'm sick. This does not feel like that. Now, what's very curious about this is um, I know that our body can manifest physical um, symptoms isn't the right word, but like physical creations of shifts and transformations. And our body, a friend of mine has a really great way of saying this, where like, we might mentally be completely like shifted and done and processed through something, moving on, but the body takes a little longer to process. So as I was experiencing, because like I just suddenly randomly was getting nauseous and I had this sore throat. I'm like, what the fuck is going on? And realized that I've been going through this like really cool activation initiation. What's amazing is the moment that I had the awareness that the nausea that I had been experiencing wasn't because I had eaten something wrong or because I was ill in any way, but it was actually like part of this activation space that I'm in. It completely went away. Like I haven't felt nauseous since it's been, I don't know, a day or two since I felt that way. And our throats, if you're not familiar with the seven chakras of our body, we have a chakra that exists in our throat. And our throat chakra is all about like how we speak, how we communicate, our source of honesty, our source of, I like to think of it as call it like influence or inspiration. And this is a very unique period in my life where I'm in a massive portal shifting from one massive, um, like 15-year long set of lessons and growth, and preparing for a whole new area of growth that's expected to last like for the next 20 years. So I'm not kidding when I say that I'm in this massive portal of transformation right now. And once that realization came through, I'm like, oh, my body is shifting through this. I'm in this activation stage. It's no surprise to me. And I also really wanted to launch the 5 Energies of Money series this week. I was kind of pushing into it. And then my voice is like, no fucking way you're recording a whole podcast this episode this week. So it all got pushed back. And all of that to say that this lady over here on this side of the microphone is going through a very cool up-leveling right now, and all of you are going to benefit from it. I just know that deep in my heart. So I'm so excited about the 5 Energies of Money series that's coming out, because even just writing the welcome email, I'm like, oh my God, this is going to be so fucking good. So stay tuned. And with that, I am going to send you into the questions. And I am super duper excited to have you here with me. Thanks so much.
What's the deal with affirmations? Do they actually even work? So affirmations like meditation, like tapping, like hypnosis, these are all tools to help us shift our subconscious mind. Our beliefs actually live in our subconscious mind, and our beliefs are basically thoughts that we repeat over and over and over again. That's why an affirmation is something that you repeat over and over and over again. What you are doing is that you are using the power of repetition to teach and reprogram your brain to believe something that you desire to be true. Now, here's the thing with affirmations. It sometimes can mess us up a little bit. If we try to go from someone that like we're super far in debt, we're making basically no money, and we're really struggling to even just put food on the table. If we start practicing an affirmation like I am a millionaire, your conscious mind, your reticular activating system is going to toss that out. It's not even going to make it into your subconscious mind because it's so far out of reach for you. However, you can use progress statements to build in the network that's going to support that belief. So instead of saying, I am a millionaire, you could say, I am on the way to becoming a millionaire. Now, yes, this does mean that you are creating a state where you are perpetually on the way, but it gets you on the bridge. It gets you into the space where you could be a millionaire versus this person who's like broke as a joke. When it comes to affirmations, it's really important that we repeat them continuously. So I had a coach that told me to do them every 2 hours all day long for months and months and months. And yes, absolutely, that sounds like a lot of work. And old me was like, there's no fucking way that I'm going to do that. But I trusted her and I trusted the process. And before you knew it, all of a sudden these affirmations that I was saying were coming true. I was starting to feel that they were true for me. And affirmations can be used for more than just manifesting money, okay? We can use them for creating states of being, like feeling powerful, feeling confident, really owning our own energy and owning the success that we desire to bring in. When we start to fully step into that space, we become super magnetic. So earlier today, I got to do a little modeling shoot. I got my makeup all done, and when I finished all of these spaces, hanging out with these really cool women and feeling really powerful and strong and fucking beautiful, I noticed as I was walking to my car to load everything up and go home, even though I was just in like tank top and leggings, nothing super fancy, I was getting checked out all over the place. And you might go, well, Amy, you're naturally a beautiful girl, which like, thank you. But what was actually causing that reaction, because that doesn't happen every time I walk out the door, what was causing that reaction is the fact that I had this energy and this feeling and this embodiment of a woman who is fully in herself, who feels really confident in her body, who feels beautiful, who feels magnetic, and people responded to that. They can't help it. The world can't help but respond to that. So when you're working through your affirmations, if it's a tool that you decide to give a try to help shift the reality that you're experiencing, then start playing with that embodiment. And I am powerful, for example, can something be like just you walking taller? It's one of my favorite things to do. As you're standing in the kitchen filling your water glass, strengthen out your spine, straighten out your shoulders, like just really feel, what would I feel like if I felt really, really powerful? So many of us slouch and we kind of hang over, right? And that is not a powerful stance. When you see Wonder Woman or like really amazing women, they're always standing confident, they're standing strong, they have their body open, they just exude power. So that's one way that you can practice playing with affirmations, but definitely repetition is the key. Embodiment is really important. Loading it up with emotion is something that like obviously taught a lot. And I want to just very quickly add into that. Sometimes the emotion is really tough to find. Now, what is really important to remember is that when you reach millionaire status, when you reach super confident as fuck status, when you start hitting those goals, your day-to-day life will look different, but it may not look as different as you think. So as I generate more and more success, as I feel more and more like just this full, vibrating, radiant version of me that I've always wanted to become, what I notice is that day to day, I still have days that I feel down, but I know that I still am this person. So you can play with that through your affirmations to go, okay, I'm having kind of a down day, but you know what? Even when I reach this goal and it's manifested in my life, I'm going to have some down days. So maybe today I'm just standing in the embodiment of how would I behave once I have this manifestation in my life when I'm feeling down.
All right, it's husky voiced Amy here again. So our next section is answering the question, how do you know when to give up or when to keep going? Let's roll it.
So let's just answer this straight up. If the desire, the dream, the goal is something that you truly, truly want deep in your heart, and it's not something that's being informed by the people around you or the social media that you're seeing or anything like that, then never, ever, ever give up on that dream, that goal, that desire coming true. What we can do instead, though, is check in on the alignment of how that goal or dream or desire is coming in. What we tend to do is we kind of conflate the two. We take the goal, the dream, and the desire, and then we think that it has to show up in this specific way. And sometimes these two things are not aligned, right? This how that we have in mind isn't actually aligned with creating this specific goal or dream or desire. And what happens is when that occurs, we don't think the how is the problem. We think the goal is the problem. So let me give you an example. I have dreamed for years of having my own powerful multi-million dollar business that's impacting thousands of lives and really like raising women everywhere. And I thought originally that that would happen through my interior design business. But after 6 years of having my business in Calgary, I was completely burned out and I wasn't even enjoying just doing like the basic design work that used to feel like I was having so much fun. And so I thought that this goal that I had, this dream, wasn't meant to be mine. What I realized was that the how that I was working with wasn't aligned for the impact that I wanted. So fast forward a couple years and I launched another business, and I launched a business that was teaching other people how to start service-based businesses. But no matter how much I leaned into that, it never fully felt aligned. And so I couldn't quite figure out why it wasn't seeing the success that I wanted. And so again, I let go and I was like, I guess this really means that that goal really isn't meant for me. And then fast forward again, and when the universe knocked on my door and said, Amy, you need to teach about money and you need to show women how to build wealth and how to build confidence and how to build freedom in their lives, I was like, yo dog, I think you have the wrong number. But once I finally answered the call and I leaned into the work, I went, oh my gosh, this is what's been missing. This is what it feels like to be in alignment. This is what the how has been meant to be all along. And that doesn't mean that the other pieces, the other businesses were wrong and that I shouldn't have pursued them. And it definitely doesn't mean that they were a waste of time. We like to think that like if that how is not aligned, then I'm wasting my time getting there. No, babe, you are learning a tremendous amount. I cannot even begin to tell you all of the things I learned through having my own design business, all the things that I learned in working to launch the second business. All of that has come to bear in the business that I now grow and the business that feels so good to me. So, to answer your question of how do you know when you give up, right? When do I say enough's enough, this obviously isn't meant for me? The answer is never. And also let go of the how, because if it's feeling like a lot of friction, if it's feeling like a lot of resistance, if it just feels like it's not coming into you, it's because the how that you are currently engaged in isn't aligned for you.
Okay, and our very last question is answering what does it look like to be aligned or in alignment? Let's roll the tape.
Let's talk about what it looks like to be aligned or in alignment, because we hear a lot about this when it comes to manifesting in our dreams, right? The whole idea of we want to align our energy with the dream or desire that we have. And once that energy is aligned, then the dream can't help but manifest. Well, that all sounds fine and we get it logically. Yes, like frequency attracts like frequency. But how do you know what that feels like, especially if you've never had it? So, out of alignment energy is when we are in resistance or in friction or in some way just like not fully tapping into what is meant to be ours in terms of energy. And that will feel often a little bit frustrating, or like you might feel angry about it, or it just kind of feels like everything is going really slow. There's not as much joy as you thought might be in the process of creating this desire. So that's when we're out of alignment. And that's really good to know, because when we feel those ways, then we can start to shift our emotions. When we're in alignment, it actually feels like really stupid easy. Like it just feels like things just kind of open up for you. You get these amazing ideas that they don't seem like they're amazing and they seem kind of like duh, because they just seem so logical. Well, of course I would do that. That just makes sense to me. We tend to dismiss those because we have this idea that either it's going to be this giant earth-shattering idea, or that it's going to take a lot of effort, right? We're used to putting in effort to creating what we want, but alignment doesn't require effort. So when I began building this business, I really felt like I was in alignment with the idea, but I couldn't find the right traction on how to build my audience and share my content, and what did the programs that I wanted to build look like. And the things that I was trying, I tried a lot of things. Some felt fine, some felt really kind of icky, some felt like, oh my God, so much work, who's got the time to do all of this? But every time I tried something, it gave me a little bit of feedback. And so now I've gotten to the point where recording the podcast every week feels really good. It actually feels too easy. I'm like, this can't actually really be what I'm supposed to be doing. It's got to be harder than this, right? Like, that doesn't make sense. When I started first working on social media, it's not super my jam. And I really was like, oh my God, like who spends all the time on here anyway? But the feedback that I'm getting back is that videos just like this, where I show up and I share some information with you, are really, really valuable to people. And here's the part that like blew my mind. While being on social media doesn't excite me very much, recording videos for social media feels super in my jam. It feels easy. It feels fun. It feels like I'm getting away with something. That is in alignment energy. Now, let's piece this together with the dream or the desire. So for example, let's say that you are going hard after like a promotion, or you're building a new business, or you want to build a new business, and you're trying to figure out, well, how do I get in alignment with what that looks like? So once you have even a vague idea, so for example, I know I'm building a multi-million-dollar business. I know that I'm going to have a really great team, and I know that the people around me, I want to have really strong, amazing, powerful women in the circle around me. So how do I start doing that when I'm going from nothing? It seems easy when someone lays it out down the road when they've achieved it, but when you are starting from scratch, how do you build that? Well, you tune into what feels good and pay attention to the stuff that just feels fun, like you're getting away with it. So I talked about the socials and I talked about the podcast. When I wrote the program, when I wrote the Building Fempires program, it just flowed through me and it makes so much sense. And I was like, this can't be that great, right? Because it just seemed too easy to read it or to write it. But then when I actually go back, I'm like, oh my God, this is fucking amazing. How did I write this? Where did that come from? That is alignment energy. Then as I stepped further and further in and I kept trying different strategies and tools, what I realized was that some things felt really good and some things felt really heavy and I was really avoiding them. So I started leaning into the things that feel really good, like doing podcast interviews. I love doing podcast interviews. They feel so good. They feel, again, like I'm getting away with something, and they're really, really powerful. They're a great way for me to share and to put value in the world and to get the message out there and to reach more audiences. And then lastly, I discovered this fashion designer a few months ago that I've been just obsessed with since the moment that I found them. And finally, I made it into the store and I was having a chat with the women as I was checking out. And I said, by the way, if you're ever looking for models, my hand is up. I want to do that. 2 weeks later, I got an email that said, can you come in on Friday? We want to do some test shots. So I go in, I get my makeup all done, I go try on some clothes and get to do some photographs in front of the camera, and I've never done modeling before in my life. So I was like, this will be a new adventure, but it felt light and fun and free and like I was getting away with something. And the important part about that is I'm now building this community of powerful, smart, intelligent, successful women around me. That's how we start to become more and more in alignment with our dreams and desires. So what does it look like? It looks a little bit different for each of you, but pay attention and understand what feels good. What feels like you're getting away with something? What feels like it's almost too easy, but somehow well, this seems to make sense, so I'm going to give it a try. That's alignment energy. When it's easy, when it feels effortless, it doesn't matter how much effort it takes. There are things that feel effortless, that take a fair bit of effort, but they don't feel heavy. That's alignment energy. So I trust that this helps clear that up for you.
Thanks so much for being here with me on the podcast today, babe. I hope that you enjoyed this and got some tremendous value out of this. If you haven't yet, please take a moment and leave a review of this podcast, as it will help me get the word out to more folks. And of course, you can always find me over on the socials at Amy Van Meel. That's my handle for both Instagram and TikTok, and the URLs are always in the show notes. So excited to be here with you again next week, and here's hoping that my voice is stronger and better and feeling good. And until then, have an amazing day.
Thank you so much for tuning in to today's episode. If you loved what you heard today, be sure to share it with me by leaving a review on your favorite podcast platform and help me reach more like-minded people who are ready to expand their life. If you haven't yet followed me on social media, find me on Instagram for extra love and inspiration by following at Amy Van Meel or visit my website at amyvanmeel.com. I love you so much, babe, and I am damn proud of you. I am already excited to connect in the next episode. And in the meantime, believe in yourself with the confidence of a 5-year-old.